Thanks for checking out Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. Here are your hosts, Andrew Hofer and Tom Sigel.
Welcome into Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. I am Field Ambassador Tom Sigel, joined by our Area Director Andrew Hofer. And for all of you that were anxiously awaiting a podcast last week and wondered why there wasn't, or maybe you weren't anticipating it, we had our 2026 Vision Gala last Friday, April 10th, and with a lot of things going on, we were not able to get an episode recorded, and a lot of that has to do with the great work that Andrew did, along with Leslie Bannister, were really the two that spearheaded the majority of the work, and there were some volunteers along the way as well. But Andrew, I thought it was a great evening, and just a lot of positive comments from guests that I had talked to afterwards.
Yeah, last week was kind of all hands on deck. A busy week for us, but the gala is always fun because we get to celebrate the stories that we get to see from the impacts that the ministry's made on the hearts and lives of the students and coaches that we serve every day. And it was good to see a lot of different coaches in the room, a lot of different FCA volunteers in the room, and then I don't know how many were there, but a good number of students from all over the place from different schools that we're serving in. So getting to hear them speak, share testimonies, and just kind of give a glimpse into what's going on to the people who were able to come for the night. So it's always a really special night.
Yes, and so you and Leslie did a great job with that, and our speaker, Aaron Riesland, and hope I said that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Just a lot of positive comments on that, and one of our guest that evening, and he was actually our MC last year for the event, Coach Vic Boblett, who was at Geneseo and also at Rock Island before he retired a few years ago, is going to be our guest this week. And I know that I've heard his story before about how FCA had an impact on him, and then also throughout his coaching career, and also get some feedback from him, I think, on the event Friday night.
Yeah, if people want to know why we do what we do, it's getting to listen to, you listen to stories like Coach Boblett gives and like some of the students and other guests that we've had on, and that's why, getting to see a real, tangible impact and getting to see lives that have been transformed right there in real time. And we kind of get a front row seat to seeing God work and move. And I'm looking forward to hearing Coach. I've got a chance to get to know him a little bit over the last year, and very down to earth. Him and I could talk wing tee football all day, but I love to hear his conversations about FCA and the ministry, and how God's really shaped his heart too.
Yeah, well, if you get into wing tee, I'll just have to be quiet for a little bit. So,
Hey, it's
but
a beautiful thing, Coach Sigel.
yeah, yeah. Well, I enjoyed watching when I came to Rock Island, watching every year, great teams and some great runs. So we will return here briefly with our guest for this week, Coach Vic Boblett.
And welcome back to Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. This week, we're honored to welcome in retired football coach Vic Boblett. So welcome in, Coach.
Oh, thank you much, Andrew and Tom. You guys are doing great work.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Yeah, we appreciate you, Coach, and coming on and sharing a little bit about your story. But as we hop into things, why don't you tell us a little bit about your coaching background?
Well, I graduated from the University of Illinois and spent my first 3 years coaching out at Sherrard High School. And then after that, Bob Reed took the Augustana head coaching job, and Larry Johnson Sr. was named the head coach at Geneseo, and he brought me on as his defensive coordinator out there. And I spent 4 years as defensive coordinator at Geneseo. And then Bob came to me and invited me to join their staff at Augustana College, and jumped on that bandwagon, coached the defensive backs for those wonderful 4 years of 4 straight national championships. Never saw the man lose a game. Involved with him 8 direct years. Never saw him lose a game.
Wow.
But then after that 4 years, I had the bug to become a head coach. And I went back to Geneseo as the head football coach for 4 years, and finished that up playing in the state championship against Joliet Catholic. And Bob Reed was the guy who had told me that the real fun in coaching was to take a down situation and turn it around. And everywhere I had been up to that point, it was just jump on the bandwagon and let's go. So we made the jump to Rock Island and spent the next, I don't know what it was, 24 years, something like that, as the head coach at Rock Island High School.
Yep.
So had a wonderful career.
I know Andrew's going to jump into some FCA history as well, but you mentioned that too, that things were going great at Geneseo. Obviously, hometown, familiar with that, and went to a program where it took some work. I've heard some of the stories because I'm trying to learn and talk to you when I came to Rock Island. But can you share a little bit about that transition and the rewarding parts of it? But it wasn't all fun to get to the reward. So,
well, it was certainly a challenge. I remember when I got introduced to the squad, the superintendent and principal were introducing me to the squad for the very first time. And one of my players was in the middle of accosting one of my assistant coaches. That was my introduction to Rock Island High School football. And then that first year, we won 1 football game. I lost more games in that 1 year than I had in my entire career up to that point. And I remember calling my wife and telling her, I'm not sure if we know what we've gotten ourselves into. But we established some good foundation in that first year. And then from that point on, we had pretty good success, very rewarding experiences at Rock Island.
Yeah, I knew that there were some stories of the transition too. Maybe
Yeah.
not something to bring up or share, but yeah, of basically having to, this isn't the way we do things, and if you're not welcome type of
Yeah.
a thing.
Yeah.
Sacrifice some wins for the good of the program down the
Yep.
road. So
Yep. Had a lot of great assistant coaches and had great players over the years. And as you know, both of you as head coaches, it comes down to the people you surround yourself with. And I was very fortunate to have great staff and then also to have great players.
Absolutely. Yep. Coach, you and I have got to know each other a little bit over the last year, a little over a year now, and we've got to talk about all sorts of different things, from football to the intersection of faith and sports. So I know you've been involved with FCA for a little bit. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with the Fellowship of Christian Athletes?
Well, to be honest with you, FCA is directly, indirectly, or directly the reason I went into coaching. I was not raised in a church or a religious environment at all at home. And Bob Reed, my head high school football coach, invited me to an FCA meeting when I was a sophomore summer between my freshman and sophomore years of high school. And that led to having just some wonderful experiences out at camp out in Estes Park, Colorado, and Fort Collins, and it led to a lot of wonderful things for me. And I came to the conclusion that wouldn't it be cool if I could do the same thing that my head football coach did for me, that I could do for others. And so I got very involved with FCA during my years at the University of Illinois. In the summer times, I joined the FCA college staff and went around the country being a huddle leader for their camps, and got to go to got to actually catch passes from Roger Staubach at Annapolis, Maryland, at the Naval Academy. He was one of the speakers and was looking for some guys to run routes, and I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. But just had I knew how FCA had such a positive impact on my life. Wouldn't it be great to be able to go and create some of those same kinds of experiences for other kids? And everywhere I went, there was either an FCA group going or I started one, and we had just a wonderful experience after another. Kids coming to know Christ, and um, was just very happy with that relationship.
Yeah. Well, and I, witnessed it, I guess. And my oldest son, would come to some of the FCA meetings after football practice on Thursday nights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And just talking to you and the coaches that were involved. Eddie Williams is one that I remember you talking about, really took the lead. He comes often to our Thursday morning coaches huddle now, and obviously track coach, and has helped with football up there as well. And so that legacy is continuing. But can you share kind of starting that at Rock Island and how you did that? I mean, maybe it'll spark some ideas for some coaches that, whether it be football or whatever sport, how can they implement FCA and those principles within their program, and then the impact that you've seen?
Well, FCA has a ton of resources available to
Mm-hmm.
coaches or even non-coaches that would like to start a group. And so I would encourage them to avail themselves of that, you guys and Dan Pearson. And there's a wealth of help out there to get groups started. One other thing that we found really helped attendance at meetings, we almost always had chili after the meeting, and
Mm-hmm.
that seemed to attract people to the meeting as well.
It's amazing what'll happen when you bring a little food for kids.
Especially football players.
That's right.
Yeah. And didn't you really tried to follow the model, I believe, where it wasn't the coach led, it was athlete led. Is that true? And that's kind of where
Yes.
Eddie being one of
Yes.
the examples that I remember stepped up.
Yep. And I think that's the best way, and I think that's one of the greatest challenges is finding those individuals that are far enough along in their walk to take on that kind of a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think you talk about being student led. You've seen it within the coaching world, within the education world, and FCA world too. Like when you get something that's peer to peer interaction, it just seems to mean more for the kids, and they seem to
Yeah.
have a little bit better taking to it.
Yes. Yeah. And just the age and generation difference and all that, it's a better situation if you get the kids to lead it. But FCA, as I said before, FCA is very good at having resources for those people. It's not like they just got to go in there
Absolutely.
and wing it.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. You're right. I mean, we don't want anyone to wing it. If you don't want the blind leading the blind.
Yeah. And I think that was the thing that I saw as well, where the and again with Trey being there is, hey, pick me up later, because freshman year obviously he couldn't drive, but pick me up later on Thursdays because you were able to do it with the whole program. And so those older players were setting an example for the younger guys, and faith-based, great, but also building the culture of your program based on those principles.
Yeah, there's no question that it was a unifying force for the program. Um, Kids really bought into it, and um, there's just a strong foundation as a part of FCA. It's based on such a strong foundation. If you get that anything that contributes that to your program, it's going to help you down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think when you talk about faith in sports too, there's so many principles that just go together where the principles of your faith match up what you're trying to build for the culture of your program.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many kids are out there now, especially now, just they're looking for something to hang their hat on, and they want to join. They want to be a part of something that's bigger than themselves. And FCA is it's a wonderful organization for doing that.
Yeah. I think Andrew was going to get into the gala Friday night, but at your table was one of your assistants, wasn't Tom?
But
Tom?
but Tom Schmalbach
Yeah.
and Jan, his wife, was with us. Tom was a great guy. Tom was his first year of teaching was my senior year of high school. So I got to know him way back then. But Tom was a, a wealth of knowledge, football wise, and common sense knowledge. And so I attribute a lot of the things I learned about the game of football to him.
Yeah.
He's a great coach at Augustana College, and of course I got to coach with him when I was at Augie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to surround yourself with good people.
Yeah. We had one of our speakers Friday night was Damon Colvin, who we had as one of our guests on an episode when we were kind of highlighting and talking about the roles of assistant coaches. And I didn't have a great basis for why I brought him on my first year at Rock Island, but so I can't take credit, but it was a great decision. I guess that was God led to trust that and bring him on because yes, I mean the work that he did with players and obviously his faith and an accountability person for me often was, like you said, surround yourself with great
Yeah,
people. And that
absolutely,
was one that I had the opportunity, among others, but none of
absolutely.
those are a pastor at their own church, so I won't mention them.
So Tom brought up the gala. We just kind of finished wrapping that up at the previous week, and it was a good time to hear from our students and coaches, and then Aaron Riesland talk about why faith in sports matters, and what's to hear those students and Coach Colvin come up there and talk about what the difference it's made in their own lives personally, the difference that they've seen in their schools and their communities, on their teams. That's what I mentioned it earlier. That's kind of like us getting a front row seat to seeing God at work.
Yes,
And so this way we appreciate you being a part of that and celebrating with us, because that's what it really was. It was a celebration of all that God's done throughout the last year.
it's always good too, as being individuals out in the audience, just to hear what's going on with FCA,
Yeah.
both locally and statewide, and then even nationally and internationally. Now, that's what I learned at the gala this
Yeah.
year, that it's an organization that's really expanding and answering the call. So it was a fun night, and it's always nice to be around like-minded people, and it's encouraging to know that the work of FCA is still it's progressing.
Yeah, and it was interesting too that Aaron brought up and Andrew talked about it with the goals of trying to expand, but the numbers and percentages of students that aren't, it's always been focused on school teams and those type of things, but the percentages of other sports expanding and youth sports that are not within our schools was something
Yeah,
that I
that was
think was brought up to attention as well.
that was kind of eye-opening, and I guess it shouldn't have been so surprising with having grandkids and stuff that are getting involved in all of the travel organizations that are out there. And I've been to enough of that to see that there are some good, but
Hmm.
boy, I've seen some things that are not so good as
Yeah.
well. And so it's good to see that FCA is expanding out into those groups.
Well, Coach, I know several times you and I have talked about travel baseball and travel sports with your grandsons and my kids getting involved in that. And I think you're right. It's a new world for ministry, but frankly, like, it's right out in front of us. Like, the vast majority of kids are doing non-campus sports, and while we still value campus sports, especially us all having that previous involvement at the highest level of doing that, like, it's a new world out there, and you kind of got to go where the kids are.
Yeah, that's truth. And just the numbers, some of the numbers that were shared at the event as to how
Staggering.
fast and how big those groups are getting. It's it was eye-opening.
Yeah, we could
Well,
probably do an hour-long podcast on travel sports.
yeah, we could have all kinds of speakers and guests on the screen and just go on. Well, and it's one of those things too in the high school coaching ranks. When you look at who's wanting to go in or what it takes to do that and run a program, the landscape's changed. And when you expand it into those youth sports, there are so many more people who are influencing young athletes and young kids and how to behave and sportsmanship and teamwork and all those things. And while the more people who can influence them is a positive, we all know that that's not always the case either. So some of those influences are not positive, and that's where I think the goal will be to reach out and influence coaches to, let's treat this 10U game what it really is. And
Well, I really worry too about the role that money is playing in all of this. That some of the things between the hotels and tournament fees and admissions fees and how many kids are being excluded because they just families don't have those
Yeah.
kinds of resources. And so I think that's a potential danger for the sports themselves. It's going to limit the talent pool, the number of people that get involved in the activities.
yeah,
So I think it needs to be addressed for sure before it does too much damage.
yeah. And
Well,
spending all that
I
money to
mentioned
chase scholarships, the wrong
Yeah,
goal.
yeah. You and I both know, all of us know that. Um, how many full ride scholarship kids did we have during the course of our career?
Hmm.
And every parent getting the message that you just come spend all this money with us, and you spend playing baseball or whatever sport 365 days a year, and we'll get you there.
Yeah.
We all know that that's not realistic, and so it has the potential to do great good, but that's where FCA maybe could really influence things in a positive way.
We can hear you, Andrew.
okay.
Can you
Well,
hear
I
us?
mentioned it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of
Nothing
cut
was
you off,
coming up on
maybe.
my screen.
Were you just sending me a
Nothing.
message like, hey, I'm trying to talk. Let me get it.
No, nothing was coming up on my screen. So,
Okay.
well, I mentioned it. That's a good point you made because I mentioned it last Friday. Like, it's the number one economic interest for kids in the country is sports. And
Wow.
by a
Yeah,
lot. I mean, it's multi-billion-dollar industry. And
it
so I
is.
think we've got to be careful because, like, sports, like, what were they? If you go back to the very origin of sports, what was it intended for? It was for competition, yes, but it was for fun. It was for sport, literally the word sport,
Hmm.
for fun, and we keep moving a little bit further and further away from that, and forgetting that kids are kids sometimes, all the
And the
time. But
reason coaches got into it was to potentially do for others what Bob Reed
yeah,
did for me, develop young people. And because sport
Hmm.
is such a wonderful thing for
yeah,
teaching kids how to deal with adversity and all the positive things that come out of it. I'm afraid we're losing sight of it a little bit, and at the collegiate level. You see all these great coaches getting out
Hmm.
because they no longer play that role. They're just another business partner, and so
yeah,
it is something I think all coaches need to keep an eye on. That the only reason sports is in school is supposedly to help develop kids into well-rounded citizens,
Yeah.
and we got to we may be losing a little track of that, maybe.
yeah.
Well,
It
I
kind of goes
love
back to
that.
like what's your why? So I was gonna say it
Yeah.
goes back to what's your why? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? For many of us, and you've kind of mentioned it, and like Tom, you and I have talked about this before too. Like, we had good experiences in sport growing up too. Like, we had a coach or someone who poured into us, and now it's like, well, how can we do that for the next generation or next generations?
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
glad that, like we talked before, like we just wing it, and if we get off topic. So I love getting off topic because we're covering some good stuff here. But when you talked about 365 days a year, the thing that came to mind, not only kids getting burned out, but working with you for, well, it wasn't all of my 20 years. It probably was about 12 or so, 12 or 14. How many athletes that we shared? And I know
oh
your opinion on multi-sport athletes and the benefits of that. So I can kind of bring that up as a topic here as we.
Yeah, we had all the coaches at Rock Island were real good. Everybody kind of bought into the idea that it is in the best interest of kids to be a multiple sport kid, because they'll learn things from you, Tom, that they can't learn from me, and they'll learn things from you that they can't learn from either one of the other of us. So I mean, it's every sport provides new learning experiences, and education, high school, it should be about exposing kids to as many activities as we can so that they can learn as many lessons as they can from the various sports and the various coaches. And in terms of the college thing, that every time we had a college coach come into our office wanting to recruit kids, without question, to a man, they preferred a multi-sport kid to a single sport kid. So even if your objective is just making that next move to the college level, it's in that kid's best interest to expose himself to lots of different people and experiences. And sometimes Tom, you and I were fortunate at Rock Island that all our coaches bought into that. There are programs out there. There's a lot of coaches out there that are trying to sell that. You just do my deal and we'll get you a scholarship, but you're going to have to be with me 365 or it won't happen.
Yeah.
That's not in the best interest of a kid.
No,
That's a selfish coach.
Yeah. I hear that a lot from schools. And when I hear it, it's almost like, well, that's the way it is here. Like they've kind of accepted it. And that's kind of scary. I mean, with youth sports, I always thought it was healthy that kids would have the opinion or the feeling that, oh, the season's over, and be disappointed, not, oh, we have another tournament next week, especially when they're younger. And that's what with my two boys both played multi-sports, and they enjoyed just the change to get away. And the funny thing is that when Trey got to college, he missed football, high school football Friday nights more than anything, and Colton missed baseball. But they were, their basketball was their main sport, but they missed them because the experiences that they had. They loved it.
Yeah.
And I think
go ahead, Andrew.
So I think the separation of seasons is good too, because you see that leaking down to lower and lower where you're getting so much crossover of seasons. And, for one of the things we've tried to do, and it's not perfect, but it's like, well, right now it's baseball season. It's the spring into the summer. And then, you get into the fall, it'll be football season. That'll be basketball season, or whatever sports season you're in. And it's, you're trying not to burn kids out and allow them to do multiple things. And it's a little bit different at schools the size of Rock Island versus like when you started at Sherrard. Those are different situations, but you get a lot of kids that are not only doing multiple sports, but they have to do multiple sports for the school to function.
Right. Right. But the bottom line is it's in that kid's best interest to do multiple sports.
Yeah.
And I hope parents will come to realize that and encourage their kids to do multiple things. The whole thing in high school is just exposing kids to as many things as you can so that they can find that one thing maybe they can hang their hat on and feel good about and elevate their self-esteem. Think maybe I'm just a little bit better at this than most. Give them that good self-esteem situation.
Yeah, I always tell kids too, like, because kids are starting to go away from multiple sport and just doing one thing, locking in, and like high school. Like, and I'm from the education background. Both of you guys are too. And the high school's like, what if you're not doing sports and doing things? It can get pretty boring, Like you need to go and do things and expose yourself to multiple things, and for a variety of reasons.
And idle hands can oftentimes end up being finding negative things to hang your hat on too.
Yeah.
Well, the first speaker on Friday night that she talked about how, coming into, she went to Dixon, right?
Yep.
Dixon High School, and went to the FCA Huddle, and boy, it was, how eye-opening that was. And she just was included. And like you said before, Vic, just like-minded people. And I thought, that was a great testimony from her standpoint.
It really was.
Yeah. So, Coach, anything else We started getting hit in a
Oh,
lot of topics. Anything else you want to get in?
I got one final question for you, Coach,
Okay.
and so this will kind of wrap us up. I ask this to a lot of coaches, but you had a long career and a wide variety of experiences. Right now, if someone was 21, 22 years old getting into the coaching world, what would be your advice to them as they get ready to start their careers?
Thanks for the easy question.
And I'm not talking about X's and O's. I'm not talking X's and O's, but like what, like if for you, like what would be your priorities? Like what are something like this should be it as you're getting into the coaching world?
Well, the thing that I would say to anybody that's contemplating getting into coaching, or anybody that's contemplating marrying into a coach's
Yeah.
family, go into it with your eyes wide open. It's gonna be you're gonna work hours that you never knew existed, and you just that's why I think it is so critical to have something at your base. I wanted to repay Bob Reed for what he did for me, and I wanted that for for the kids that I got in contact with. And if you've got that at your core, all the hard work and the things that you just have to do to get things turned around, it becomes not necessarily easier to do, but you're just more committed to it. You have to really be committed to it. And I always told there's two kinds of in my situation there are two kinds of wives that are married into coaches' families. There's great ones and there's divorced ones. You got to make sure that your whole entire family understands the level of commitment before you start having kids or before you start making the decision to get married. That all needs to be understood up front so that you make sure that you get a great spouse. And so that'd be my encouragement. You need a support system around you. And that'd be the other thing I would say.
Yeah.
As best you can, surround yourself with good people. And that's where I really got fortunate. I surrounded myself with unbelievable people. I had Paul Olson and Bob Reed. Paul Olson was the head track coach at Augustana College. I coached track there as well. And Bob Reed, holy cow, can you have a better set of mentors that had been there and been through it and could provide you with advice? Bob, I often kidded with him. I went up to him one time, as I said earlier, in my 4 years of playing for Bob in high school and in my 4 years as a coach with him, never saw the man lose a game. I mean, there was a 52 game winning streak in high school, and then there were those 4 national championship years at Augustana. I went up to him once and I said, "Hey, you know you're my mentor and I'm learning everything I can from you. Could you please show me how things change? Could you lose a game so I could see how things change, how you deal with a loss?" His response to me was just, "Vic, there's nothing that says you have to lose a game. Easy enough. Just win them all."
Yep.
I wish I'd have known that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would, one story I would relate to you, getting back to the FCA part of it. My summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college, I was with the FCA college staff. And the first camp that I went to work was in Granville, Ohio at Denison University. And, here I am, a white kid from Geneseo. That's what I'd been exposed to my entire life. I go to Granville, Ohio, and all the kids in Granville are pretty much like the kids that I had dealt with all throughout my youth. And so we had a great week that week and just had a wonderful experience. And actually, the group, we had trouble tearing ourselves apart at the end of the week. Nobody wanted to leave. I mean, that was just the power that was at that camp. And the very next week, we went to Annapolis, Maryland at the Naval Academy. And a lot of the kids, I'd say the vast majority of kids who were at that camp were minority kids. And a lot of them were kids that had been in trouble with school or law. And part of their rehabilitation situation was you go to this FCA camp. And so the first couple of nights, I remember the college staff, we were up pretty much all night just keeping a lid on things. And I told the kids on that first night, I said, I talked to them about the experience we'd had at Denison and how close we had all become. And it was all because of God's love. And that I'm here to tell you, young men at Annapolis, same thing's going to happen here this week. And sure enough, by the end of that week, we were all so tight that none of us wanted to leave the place. And so God can do miraculous things. And FCA has been a big, big part of that in my life. And so I just want to offer encouragement and say thank you to you guys for helping keep that program going.
No. Well, we appreciate you having you on. And Andrew, I don't think I've told you, but some of those days when our offices were 30, 40 feet apart, I would end up there and just listen and take in all the knowledge, and we would talk sports, and then I'd kind of realize I better get back to work. But
we had a good group up there, didn't we, Tom?
Yep. So you did serve in a different sport, but still as a coaching mentor to somebody coming to Rock Island at
count your blessings. If you'd ever seen me play basketball, you just count your blessings.
Okay. Well, we appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah, thank you for your time, Coach. I appreciate you sharing your testimony and stories here. And if Tom ever lets me do a Wing Tea podcast, you'll be one of the first guests.
Well, you can do it. I just said I'll just sit and listen. I don't have a whole lot to offer.
I don't know. He had a son that was a pretty good player for us. I think he probably knows more football than he's saying here.
Yeah,
my fantasy team record won't count, though.
We'll be talking about Buck Sweep, not fantasy team. So.
Yeah.
So
we'll put him in charge of defense. Yeah, we'll do the offense.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you, Coach, for coming on. We appreciate you, and thank you for the encouragement given to the local coaches and even us too here, staff. So appreciate you, Coach.
Yeah, and all you did to help support your players and FCA and grow that as well, that ministry.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and keep up the good work, boys.
Well, Andrew, that was a great discussion, and I know we kind of jumped all over, but that's sometimes the fun of it when we have a guest on with all of Coach Boblett's experience. And like I mentioned, the times that I was able to pick his brain and talk about coaching and learn from him. So it was a great time discussing and to hear about how Coach Reed had the influence on him, and he's had influence on players, and the impact FCA had on him, I thought is a tremendous message, especially coming off the week from last week with the Vision Gala and celebrating all that's been going on.
Yeah, we frequently bring up the influence of a coach.
Mm-hmm.
It's a vital piece of this ministry and why we do what we do, where we're pouring into these coaches, giving them gospel-centered, resources and trying to share the hope of Christ with them in the hopes that you see stories like what Coach Boblett's was, where someone did that for him. And then him turning around and doing that. So the influence of a coach is really powerful. And, I don't know how many coaches that Coach Boblett had the chance to work with, or how many students Coach Boblett had the chance to work with over the years, but that number was in the thousands. And so you think about, he had the chance to influence thousands of kids, and now those kids are out, and some of them are coaching, some of them are in their communities doing really great things, and a lot of them are. And so that one influence of one coach, one Christ minded coach can really change a school, change a community.
Yeah. And, from Friday, hearing the testimonies from, Coach Colvin and talking about FCA, that his involvement, and the two student athletes that we had speak. It just was, and then with Aaron speaking at the end and talking about experiences. It was a tremendous evening, and these stories, and I think having Coach Boblett on was enjoyable again, and enlightening, I guess, comes to mind too, in seeing the impact that, like you said, the mix of sport and faith. I mean, I think it's embodied in a lot of different roles that
Yeah.
he's been in.
Yeah, I think it's vital, and you're seeing people talk about it more, being more bold and open about it. And,
Hmm.
we got to hear that from the likes of our students with Addison Fegan from Dixon and John Alden from Monmouth College and Coach Colvin from Rocky, so we got to hear it through them. And so really appreciative of all of them. And, Jackson Seals from Geneseo and Caroline Neese from Rockridge being able to pray for us too. And then obviously, like you said, Aaron sharing with us at the gala and really pouring his heart out. And so really thankful for all the people who were a part of it, all of our table hosts, all of our board members and huddle leaders, and the people that are kind of the heartbeat of this ministry that kind of fuel us being able to go to the schools, being able to go into our communities and teams so that we can continue to share the hope and love of Christ with the thousands and thousands of kids in our area.
Yeah, and we get highlight and present awards to the Faith and Leadership Award winners from the different
Yeah.
schools. Those are the ones that are doing great things, and how many of them in the past have then taken that onto their college campuses and shared their faith. And when you standing up there on the stage, okay, have our staff stand up and our board, and then when you got to the huddle leaders, how many of them stood? And I think it was an impact um, to the audience of how many people are out there working with these students and leading huddles in their schools.
Yeah, it's a team effort. I mean, we talked about how many schools and kids are in our area, and without the help of those individuals being boots on the ground in those places every day, this wouldn't be possible. So they're making a huge difference.
Yeah.
Just a vital part of the ministry. And I mentioned the other night there was around probably 50 people who ended up standing. Those are 50
Hmm.
people, and that's a fraction of who's actually serving too. Just 50 people in that room though who are every day serving our kids and trying to make a difference, just like Coach Boblett mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll make the plug that for you, I guess. But yeah, there's always staff opportunities, part-time, full-time, volunteer, being a huddle leader, resources, as Vic mentioned, that we would be able to get you in touch with. Our emails at the bottom of the screen, reach out and we'd love to help.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always more students to reach, and we mentioned some of the vision of doing that next year, but there's more ideas and more doors that God hasn't opened yet that are out there, and so it's going to take more people, and we're just praying for this faithfulness in that. So
Yep.
appreciate everyone, and appreciate you guys giving us a chance to share about the gala, but also really getting to celebrate with Coach Boblett and hearing his story tonight too, and so just thankful for everyone. And if you guys would go ahead and share this podcast, like and subscribe on Spotify or YouTube. This is continuing to grow a little bit, and we're grateful and honored to be able to hear the testimonies of so many. So for Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA, I'm Andrew, and with Tom Sigel, and looking forward to seeing you guys next week.
Thanks for watching this episode of Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA. If you have ideas for content or interview suggestions, just reach out to Tom or Andrew. Thanks again for checking out Inside the Huddle with Three Rivers FCA.